Heartbleed, it's the mother of all security flaws, so what can we do?
Galaxy S5 or HTC One M8? Which Android superphone should you buy? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Alex Kidman, and I'm joined by a man who self-medicates with Miles Davis and Wild Turkey, Adam Turner.
Yeah, it's true.
Adam,
it's true.
What's happening in tech news?
Microsoft looks set to rename Nokia smartphones Microsoft Mobile, according to leaked paperwork. It's a sad day for the once proud Finnish smartphone giant, although the Nokia name should live on in its networking and mapping divisions.
The USB Implementers Forum, who go by the rather unfortunate acronym of USB-IF, have announced a new USB standard. USB Type-C's big talking point is that, like Apple's Lightning connector, it's symmetrical. So unlike current USB connectors, there's no wrong way to plug them in.
The first generation Apple TV is back from the dead after it refused to see the iTunes store for almost a week. Apple refuses to comment on the outage, although it's suspected to be related to Heartbleed patching of the Akamai content delivery network.
Cheaper high-end TVs are coming thick and fast, with both Kogan and TCL announcing budget 4K panels for under $1,000 locally. Meanwhile, LG has also shaved $2,000 off the price of its high-end and very sexy curved OLED TV, bringing it down to $5,999. In case you were confused, that's still a hell of a lot to pay for a TV. The talk of the security world at the moment is Heartbleed, and while that might sound like a terrible 80s boy band, it's actually a really serious problem, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, it is a very serious problem, and the more you look into it, the more serious it becomes. Basically, the problem is with a security system called OpenSSL, which is used on a lot of high-profile websites. It's used by Google, it's used by Facebook, by Dropbox, by Yahoo, and there's been a flaw in it for the last 2 years, which means someone who knew what they were doing could look at your login, your password, monitor your traffic, basically look over your shoulder and see everything you were doing. So yeah, this is a big deal.
Now, it's worth pointing out, not everything it's theoretically secure online runs on OpenSSL, but a lot of it does.
A lot of it does. It looks like Microsoft and Apple are fairly immune just because they use a different type of encryption, not because they're somehow magical. They were lucky on this one. But yeah, there are some big names in there, and you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't have an account somewhere that's affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a bit of a problem because so much of the advice has been inconsistent, and I think there's also been a lot of misunderstanding about what Heartbleed is and whether or not your system might have been compromised, because the big nasty thing about this is that it's like the perfect burglar. There are no traces. The only way you actually know you've been compromised is when your credit card is being used to buy a luxury villa in the Bahamas or something.
That might explain a few things, actually, now you mention that. Yeah, there is no way to know, and anyone who says, oh, we don't have to worry about it because we've checked and we haven't been hacked, well, you can't tell if you've been hacked. All they can do is patch the flaw and then tell you to change their password. But they have to patch the flaw first. If they haven't patched the flaw, then someone could steal your new password.
Yeah, I mean, the password change thing has been the other thing that's kind of seesawed back and forth. Do you do it? Do you not? Do you do it? Do you not? The current best advice seems to be wait until you actually get notification. But if you're concerned, you could always change it and then change it again a week later. There is this general theory that you should actually rotate your passwords on a fairly regular basis in any case.
But some of the big players like Google and Facebook have already changed their certificates and you can change your passwords.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't heard anything from them though. They seem to be just ignoring it. It's some of the smaller service providers that I'm with who are being really proactive in saying, look, this is what's happened, this is what you need to know. We've fixed the certificate, now's the time to change your password. It's almost like some of the others are thinking either A, you'll just read about it somewhere, or B, we've taken care of it, you don't need to worry about this whole password thing.
Yeah, and I mean, this also, of course, hits the other classic problem, which is that people are very, very lazy when it comes to passwords. Yeah. Using the same ones on multiple sites and having really, really obvious passwords. I mean, whenever the password list, the most common password lists leak online, which they seem to do on a regular basis, it's always the same stupid things. Password 123456, Snoopy, Dragon, 0000.
Don't forget password 1. That's one of my favorites. Password 1. They'll never guess that one.
It's so subtle,
yes.
But
people use stupid passwords.
Yeah,
yes.
people use them
and the
all
same
the time.
passwords.
And I guess if there is a silver lining here, it's that it might get people to stop doing that and to adopt a more robust password policy around potentially a piece of password management software.
Yeah, this is the excuse that people need to sit down and you know, make up for all their sins that they know they've committed. They've reused this password too many times.
You've been naughty.
They've got
people.
stupid passwords. You've been naughty. This is the excuse you need to sit down and do it right. To come up with some strong passwords, or maybe to use something like 1Password or LastPass to come up with some strong passwords for you. Reusing your passwords is really, really bad. Even the fact that people reuse passwords means that some sites are vulnerable, even if they're not vulnerable to Heartbleed. A good example is iTunes is not vulnerable to Heartbleed, but Google is. Now, you might have used your Gmail account to create your iTunes account and use the same password for both. Now, when a hacker gets their hands on your Gmail account and password, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Facebook, they're going to go to iTunes, they're going to go to Skype, all these services, and try the same combination. So if you've reused the same password somewhere else, you're now vulnerable there as well. The moral of the story, do not reuse passwords.
Absolutely, and I mean, look, it's easy to see why people do it. It's both lazy and convenient. The nice thing about using a piece of password management software is that it replaces that. You stick it under a single, easy to remember password for yourself, but
Master
still secure
password.
one.
Yeah.
And then you can just copy and paste as needs be. I have a bunch of very long, relatively secure, because nothing is 100% secure, but relatively secure passwords. Some of them I do not know because my password management software knows it for me.
Yeah, see, I don't quite feel comfortable with that. I don't let mine come up with passwords for me, even though they would probably come up with stronger passwords. But I have a nice mix of passwords, uppercase, lowercase, patterns, symbols, different kinds of stuff. To anyone else, it would look like gibberish, and that's a good password. Looks like gibberish to anybody else, but has a pattern in it that makes it easy for you to remember. So, Alex, you've been playing with the Android heavyweight contenders from Samsung and HTC. What are your thoughts? Who's the champ?
Well, neither's really delivered a knockout blow. For my money, I really, really like this, the HTC One M8. Beautifully designed phone, beautifully built phone, really feels premium. If you're spending a lot of money on a phone, I think you want a phone that looks like you spent a bit of money on it. And this does. This is up there in design terms with Apple in terms of being a nicely machined device that feels solid in the hand. It's still got that same nice ultra pixel camera, which does really good low light stuff. Maybe not so good for if you want to print up a poster, but very few people do. And it's got really superb speakers for if you want to annoy me on a train by playing music too loud. And some people want to do that. Maybe I just attract them. On the other hand, you've got the Galaxy S5. Now, it's a little bit more plastic, but it has some stuff that the HTC just can't do. It's dustproof and it's waterproof, so you can not only take it in the rain, you can in fact dunk it into a fish tank if you so feel the need, and hey, look, I'm guilty, I did. And it'll survive quite nicely. It's also got the most powerful processor that you can get in a smartphone in Australia at the moment, if that kind of thing is important to you. They're both really good, strong, powerful hero devices, but they're both also kind of offset by a certain level of gimmickry.
Oh, well, gimmickry, that's what Samsung does. That's their thing. Even the TouchWiz interface, I hate it. It feels like it was designed by a committee of Korean schoolgirls. Have they got better or worse with the S5?
A drunk committee of Korean schoolgirls, I think. Look, it's a bit of both. An awful lot of what they put into the S4 last year, they've kind of hidden. It's still there, but it's very much hidden away, and that's perhaps a big thing with TouchWiz and with the apps that you get on it, that you won't necessarily spot they're all there. Sadly, we've still got that stupid bug that means that if you stay with TouchWiz, you can't move the bottom dock icons. There's a lot of speculation about potential legal outcomes as to why Samsung's doing this. I don't want to involve the lawyers, but yeah, that seems to be the case because, gee, it's annoying. But even beyond that, for the features that you'd get on the phone anywhere in the world, you've got the heart rate sensor. Now, again, it seems harmless enough. Hey, I'll see how my heart's doing after I've been for a little bit of a jog and track that through the S Health app. Nothing necessarily wrong there, except that an awful lot of tests have suggested that it's a bit more on the indicative than absolute side. And if you really want that kind of data, either for health tracking in a medical sense or for sports tracking, a dedicated proper band might be a better bet.
Yeah, you can see there's a bit of fine print here. Not to be used as a health device.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got stuff like this thing has an inbuilt child minding app. You pair it up to one of their new smartwatches, the Gear 2, Gear Neo and Gear Fit, and you leave your phone by your sleeping baby, and then when the noise from the baby reaches a certain level, that's when your device will buzz. Now that's abrogating your parental responsibilities on a massive level. It's really dumb, Samsung. I don't know why you did it.
When you said child minding, I
was it?
thought it was like one of those security bracelet things where you can put one of those Samsung Gear things around your kid's arm or leg, and if they leave the room or go into the kitchen, it gives them a zap.
I might pay money for that based on the way my kids behave sometimes, but no, it's not that. It's not that. But
Not
there's
that,
just, there's a
alright.
whole host
That's
of
the
this.
S6.
There's a whole host of this. But the thing is, it's not just Samsung. HTC have done it as well. And I mean, there's an example from last year, the Blink Feed app, which takes up a whole third of your Android screens if you're running their launcher. Now, it's a capable enough news gathering app, but the fact is, I don't want it. I'm sure other people don't necessarily want it. Make it an app. Just make it here's a button that will launch Blink Feed, or here's an option to have Blink Feed as one of these screens. Some people will love it, they'll go nuts for it. Fine, include it, fine, whatever. But as soon as you make it a third of my space, yeah, then I'm a bit ticked off with that. But that was true with the HTC One, which was an excellent phone last year. Their big innovation, which is still a real gimmick, is the dot view case. Now, at first I was kind of taken in by this. It's kind of cute. You slap an HTC One M8 in there, and then it puts up this little 8-bit style dot graphic of the time or the weather or an incoming call or whatever. It's a good attention getter, and I was sucking in for a little while until I realized that as a case, it makes the really beautiful HTC One M8 look really awful.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is the MacBook Air of smartphones. It is gorgeous, and the case does kind of ruin that. And 8-bit's probably a good way to describe the display, the messages you get on the front. It just looks so lo-fi and so tacky that you've kind of killed all the beautiful work that the engineers put into building this phone. You just ruined all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see why you'd want to go there. I don't think the convenience is quite enough to justify hitting your beautiful phone with the ugly stick.
Yeah. I guess the other challenge that both of them have, and I mean there are other upcoming phones. Sony's got the Xperia Z2 coming up, and Apple will have whatever it announces, whenever it announces, but undoubtedly it'll be playing in the premium space. But I guess the other challenge that all of them have got right now is that an awful lot of your mid-range and even some of your entry-level phones really are very good now. They're powerful enough. The processors from last year, which they're getting now, are good enough for an awful lot of what people want to do. And I think the biggest and brightest and most obvious example of this are the Google Nexus phones. And I mean, it's not as pretty as the HTC One M8, and it's not as waterproof as the Galaxy S5, and maybe not quite as powerful and sealed batteries, and there are a few other compromises, but it's really excellent value for money, and it's a real kind of punch in the guts for the idea of you must have the latest and greatest, because in fact you can get something that's 90% as good for half the price. And so we come to the end of another episode of Vertical Hold. I'm Alex Kidman, and I've got to get myself ready to race Adam Turner to the bar.
On 3, 1, go!